The sky over New York was quiet. No sirens, no alarms, no battles. For once, the Avengers were at peace. Tony was working in his lab. Steve was jogging along the Hudson. Thor had returned from Asgard. Even Bruce Banner smiled at the calm. The world had never been safer. And then he came. Not from a ship, not through magic, just appeared, floating above the clouds. Eyes glowing red, a cape still a stone, a symbol on his chest that didn't belong to this world. The people stared up, unsure what they were looking at. And then someone whispered, "Is that Superman?" No one knew where he came from. No one knew why. But when the first building fell, when Iron Man's signal went dark, the world began to understand. This wasn't the hero from comic books. This wasn't the savior of Earth. This was a god in pain, a god without control, a god without mercy. And he had come for the Avengers, one by one, not to talk, not to reason, to end them. This is the story of what might happen if the strongest being in the universe turned on Earth's mightiest heroes. This is, what if Superman killed all the Avengers? It started like any other day. The sky was blue. The city was alive. People walked to work, scrolled through their phones, bought coffee, laughed, complained about traffic. No one knew that the world would change before the sun went down. Somewhere in Manhattan, Tony Stark was in his lab. His hands moved fast over a new Iron Man suit, the latest model. Friday spoke softly in the background. "Sir, your heart rate is elevated." Tony smiled. "That's just caffeine and genius, Friday. Let's keep going." Miles away, Steve Rogers jogged quietly along the Hudson River. The world had changed so much since the war, but the water still looked the same. He nodded politely at a passing runner. For the first time in a long time, he felt calm. Thor was back on Earth, visiting New Asgard. He laughed loudly with Valkyrie, eating meat, drinking ale, telling stories about battles long past. "The mortals have grown soft," he joked, "but at least they still know how to brew." Bruce Banner was teaching a class in a university, wearing glasses, smiling. Students asked questions about gamma radiation, and he answered gently, without the rage that once controlled him. Natasha Romanoff and Clint Barton had just finished a secret mission overseas. They sat together on a rooftop, sharing silence. No words were needed, just the sound of wind and memory. Even Wanda Maximoff, once haunted by loss, was beginning to feel light again. She walked through a quiet street in Sokovia, touching the hands of children, helping rebuild what had been destroyed. The Avengers were scattered across the world, but for once, they were not at war. They were living, healing, becoming more human than hero. And in the quiet between those moments, something entered their world. It didn't make a sound. It didn't arrive with fire or thunder. It simply was a figure standing in the upper atmosphere, still, silent, watching. He didn't belong to this universe. His eyes scanned the planet below like a god looking at ants. And yet, there was no hatred in them. Not yet. Just confusion and pain. He had lost something, someone, and now he was here. The first to notice was SWRD. A small alert flashed on their satellite feed. Unidentified object. Humanoid. Not detected by teleportation. No ship. No entry trail. They zoomed in. Clarity sharpened. A red cape. A strong jaw. A symbol. An S, curved and familiar. "Is that Superman?" someone whispered. Impossible. He didn't exist in this reality. This wasn't his world. But it was him. And in that moment, before the first attack, before the first scream, a strange feeling settled over the planet. Like a storm had just entered the room, and no one had noticed the door open. Superman had come. Not the smiling man in bright colors. Not the one who saved cats from trees. This Superman had dark eyes. Tired eyes. His cape didn't flutter. It hung like a shadow. He didn't smile. He didn't speak. He just watched. And somewhere in the back of every Avenger's mind, something ancient stirred. An instinct deeper than thought. Danger. They didn't know it yet. But by the end of the day, One of them would be dead. The news spread fast. Satellite footage leaked online within hours. A man floating above Earth's surface, just below the edge of space. He hadn't moved, hadn't spoken, hadn't even blinked. But he was there. Some thought it was fake, a viral hoax, deep fake technology, maybe an unreleased Marvel teaser. But the scientists at SWRD weren't laughing. This being isn't human, one analyst whispered. And he's not from here. The symbol on his chest was strange, but familiar, like something remembered from a dream. A red S inside a yellow shield. Not shield, something older, something alien. Nick Fury saw the footage and said only 2 words. Wake everyone. The Avengers were called in. One by one, across the world, they received the alert. Tony paused his project. His face lost its color. Bruce stood up in the middle of a lecture, grabbed his bag, and ran. Thor looked up at the sky and narrowed his eyes. Steve stopped running and turned toward the clouds, like he already knew what was coming. But they were too late. Before they could gather, before anyone could reach him, he moved. No explosion, no blast, just a blur. One moment he was in space. The next, he stood in the center of Times Square. People screamed. Cars crashed. Phones flew up in every direction. But the figure did nothing. He didn't attack. He didn't shout. He simply looked around, slowly, calmly, as if trying to understand where he was. Cameras rolled. Reporters yelled questions. Drones hovered in the air. Military jets circled overhead. And finally he spoke. But it wasn't a threat. It was a question. Where am I? The voice was deep, full of weight. It wasn't angry, just lost. For a moment, the world paused. A god had landed in the middle of the busiest city on Earth, and he was confused. Then someone fired a shot. No one knew who. Maybe a guard, maybe a frightened cop, maybe just a man who panicked. The bullet hit his chest and bounced off like it struck steel. He looked down, then up. Everything changed in that instant. His eyes glowed red, his jaw tightened. And for the first time, the people of Earth, 199999, saw it. This wasn't their Superman. This wasn't a hero. Something was broken inside him. A sadness too deep. A rage too cold. A second later, the entire police blockade was on fire. Helicopters exploded in the air. Screams filled the streets. And Superman rose, slowly, hovering above the chaos like a silent god of war. In Avengers Tower, alarm screamed. Tony looked at the screen. "Tell me that's not real," he whispered. Friday replied with no emotion. "I'm afraid it is, sir." Steve turned to Natasha. "Get everyone. Now." Thor's hammer spun in his hand. Bruce's eyes began to turn green. Wanda felt a wave of energy ripple through her chest, like a warning. And far away, in a place between worlds, Dr. Strange opened his eyes and said one word: Doom. Tony Stark did not hesitate. He never did. Before the Avengers could fully assemble, before strategies or plans could be formed, Iron Man was already in the air. Red and gold armor wrapped around him as he flew straight toward the chaos in Times Square. "Friday," Tony said, calm but sharp, full scan. "Power levels, energy source, anything." "I'm detecting no visible technology, sir," Friday replied. "No suit, no reactor, no weapons." Tony frowned. That's not comforting. Below him, the streets were burning. Cars flipped like toys. People ran in every direction. And in the center of it all, floating above the destruction, was Superman. He hadn't moved since the last explosion. He just hovered there, arms at his sides, cape flowing gently in the heat. Tony slowed and stopped in midair, keeping his distance. "Okay," Tony said, projecting his voice through external speakers. "Big guy, you've made your point. Let's all take a breath." Superman turned his head, his eyes locked onto Iron Man. For a second, Tony felt it, that pressure. Like gravity itself was leaning toward him. "You wear armor," Superman said. His voice was quiet, but it carried. "You hide behind metal and think it makes you strong." Tony forced a smile. "Yeah, well, it's either this or pajamas. Trust me, you don't want that." No reaction. Superman's gaze sharpened. "I have seen worlds burn," he said. "I have watched heroes fail. And everywhere I go, they look the same. Proud, loud, weak." Tony's hand twitched. "Friday," he muttered, "launch drones." Dozens of Iron Man drones burst from hidden compartments, surrounding Superman in a wide circle. Repulsors charged. Missiles locked on. Tony didn't wait. Fire. The sky exploded with light. Energy beams, rockets, and sonic weapons slammed into Superman from every angle. The impact shook buildings. Windows shattered for blocks. For 5 seconds, it looked like it worked. Smoke filled the air. Debris rained down. Tony hovered, breathing hard. "Status?" he asked. Then the smoke parted. Superman was still there. Not a scratch. Not even a tear in his suit. He looked annoyed. Before Tony could react, Superman moved. He didn't fly forward. He appeared in front of Iron Man. His hand closed around Tony's chest plate. The armor screamed warnings. Systems failed instantly. Power drained like a dying heart. Tony gasped. "You rely too much on toys," Superman said. He squeezed. The sound was horrible. Metal crushed. Circuits shattered. The arc reactor cracked. Tony's HUD went dark. "No, wait," Tony began. Superman didn't let him finish. He slammed Iron Man into the ground with enough force to crater the street. The shockwave tore through nearby buildings. People screamed. The armor tried to reboot. Failed. Superman landed beside the crater, staring down at the broken hero. "I wanted heroes," he said softly. "Instead, I found lies." Tony tried to speak. Blood filled his mouth. Superman raised his hand. One final strike. The arc reactor shattered completely. And just like that, Iron Man was dead. The city fell silent. Miles away, the Avengers felt it. A screen went black. A heart stopped beating. And for the first time since they had come together, the Avengers understood the truth. This wasn't a fight. This was an execution. Silence. That's what followed Tony's death. No gunfire. No shouting. Just a deep, painful silence across every Avengers comm channel. Friday was gone. Tony's signal was flat. Steve Rogers stared at the screen in disbelief. For a moment, he couldn't breathe. "He's down," Natasha said quietly. "No," Steve replied. "He's gone." A cold weight settled in the room. A weight none of them had felt since Thanos. Thor stood in the corner, arms crossed, his face hard. "He didn't fall in battle," Thor said. "He was ended." Bruce was pacing, panic building. "We don't know what we're facing. That thing, it took out Tony like he was nothing. Nothing." Steve turned to him. "We've faced gods before." Bruce shook his head. "That's not a god. That's something else. Something angry." Across the room, Wanda's hands trembled. She felt it the moment Tony's heart stopped. It echoed inside her like a bell. "I should have gone," she whispered. "I could have stopped him." "No," Steve said firmly. "That's what he wanted. Tony bought us time." "For what?" Bruce snapped. "For us to die next?" Thor stepped forward. "No," he said, his voice deep and steady. "For me." The others looked at him. "I've fought monsters. I've faced titans. I've stood against beings who tried to end worlds. But I've never seen a man take down Iron Man like he was nothing." He picked up Mjolnir. "I go now to face him." "Thor," Steve began, but the god held up a hand. "If I fall, avenge me." Then, with lightning in his eyes, Thor vanished. In Times Square, the smoke still lingered. The ground where Tony fell had become a crater, scorched and broken. Fire crews tried to push through the wreckage. Civilians had been evacuated. And in the middle of it all, Superman stood alone. Still, quiet, like he was waiting for something. Thunder cracked above. Lightning tore across the sky. Then came a sound, a deep roaring hum. Mjolnir spun like a storm. And Thor landed. His boots slammed against the ground with the force of a cannon. People watching on screens all over the world held their breath. Two titans, face to face. Thor raised his head, meeting Superman's eyes. "You've spilled blood," he said. "That was your first mistake." Superman looked at him. His face was calm. but something flickered in his eyes. "I don't want to kill you," Superman said. "You don't get to choose anymore," Thor replied. Mjolnir sparked with lightning. Superman's eyes began to glow, and the skies darkened. Back at the compound, Steve turned from the screen. "Get ready," he said. Natasha checked her pistols. Clint loaded his bow. Bruce clenched his fists. The Avengers weren't just a team. They were a family, and one of them was gone. This wasn't about saving the world anymore. This was personal, and in the heart of the storm, where gods prepared to clash. The world held its breath. The world watched. Across every screen, every news feed, every live stream, two of the most powerful beings stood face to face. Thor Odinson, son of Odin, god of thunder. Superman, last son of Krypton, the man of steel, one born from magic and myth, the other from science and sorrow. The wind around them grew still. Then Thor moved first. He swung Mjolnir high, and lightning answered. It crashed down from the heavens, roaring through the clouds like a beast set free. Thunder echoed through the city as the hammer flew. Superman raised his hand, caught it. The impact cracked the sky, a boom louder than bombs, shaking windows miles away. But Mjolnir didn't break. Neither did Superman. Thor's eyes narrowed. Superman shoved the hammer aside and darted forward, faster than sound. His fist caught Thor in the chest, sending the god flying into a nearby skyscraper. Glass and steel exploded in every direction. But Thor rose, bruised, angry. He smiled. "Good," he growled. "You hit like a god." He hurled Mjolnir again, but this time followed behind it, a storm riding a weapon. Superman dodged barely, but Thor slammed into him with the force of a falling mountain. The two crashed through buildings, streets, into the Hudson River, sending waves 30 feet high. Steam hissed. Lightning danced. Heat beams cut through the storm. People ran. Bridges shook. Power grids failed. This wasn't a fight. It was war. Thor summoned the storm. Superman answered with fire. Sky and earth collided. Up above, SWRD satellites watched the chaos. "Do we intervene?" someone asked. Nick Fury only said, "With what?" Thor landed a heavy blow, sending Superman crashing into the pavement. The ground cratered beneath him. For a second, Superman didn't rise. Thor walked forward slowly, lightning dancing across his arms. "You don't belong here," he said. "This world has heroes. It doesn't need a butcher." Superman looked up, blood at the corner of his mouth. His eyes glowed again. "I didn't come here to kill," he said. "I came because I lost everything. I came looking for peace." Peace. Thor raised his hammer. "You burned a city block. You killed a friend. I was attacked first. You are the attack." Mjolnir slammed down. Superman caught it again, but this time he pushed back. And this time, Thor slid. Not much, but enough. Superman flew into him, grabbed him midair, and they shot upward, into the clouds, through the sky, past the atmosphere. They punched through the stratosphere, then fell. Both of them came crashing down in a blur of heat and light. The impact rocked New York. Everything stopped moving. Dust rose. Sirens blared in the distance. And when the air cleared, only one figure stood. Thor lay still, cracked armor, lightning fading. Superman stood over him, breathing hard. His suit was torn, his eyes dimmed. He looked tired, not proud, not angry, just empty. He looked down at the broken god beneath him and whispered, "I'm sorry." Then he rose again, disappearing into the sky. Back at the compound, Steve dropped his shield. "No," he whispered. Bruce sat down, stunned. Wanda screamed. The god of thunder had fallen, and now there was nothing left between Superman and the rest of them. Thor was gone. The god of thunder fallen, not by a monster, not by a villain, but by someone the world once saw as a hero. Superman had returned to the sky, silent and unstoppable. The clouds still rolled above the city. The wind felt heavy, like the world was holding its breath. In the Avengers compound, no one spoke. Steve Rogers stood still, staring at the screen. His face didn't show pain or panic. just quiet determination. "Suit up," he said. Bruce looked up. "Steve." "Now." Steve walked toward his locker, pulled on the uniform. The star on his chest still bright, the stripes still bold. He clipped on the shield. It had been scratched, burned, broken, but never left behind. Natasha followed him down the hallway. "You can't fight him alone," she said. "I have to," Steve replied. "You saw what he did to Thor." "I did." Natasha grabbed his arm. "You'll die." Steve paused, then looked her in the eyes. "Maybe," he said. "But if I don't stand up, what was the point of any of this?" Natasha didn't argue. She just stepped back. "Then don't die for nothing." Steve nodded and walked into the storm. Superman hovered above the city. Buildings below were empty now. Lights flickered. Streets abandoned. Only the sound of sirens and wind remained. Then he saw it. One man, walking down the center of the street, shield on his arm. No backup. No tricks. Just him. Captain America. Superman floated lower, landing softly in front of him. "You're not here to surrender," he said. "No," Steve replied. Superman looked tired. His eyes dim, voice low. "I don't want to fight you." "I believe you," Steve said. "But I also believe you're dangerous. I tried to find peace here. You found war." Superman looked at the shield. "You think that will stop me?" Steve took a breath. "No," he said, "but it'll slow you down." Then he charged. No hesitation, no fear. Just a soldier doing what was right. Superman moved faster than thought, but Steve reacted. Not with power, but with heart. The shield deflected the first blow. He rolled under the second. Landed a punch that barely moved Superman, but it landed. That was enough. Steve fought with everything he had. Skill, timing, will. He didn't expect to win. He just needed to try. But Superman was too fast, too strong. He hit Steve like a truck. The shield flew. Steve hit the ground hard. Ribs cracked. He coughed blood, but he stood back up. "You don't know when to quit," Superman said. "I do," Steve said. "I just don't." Another hit. Steve fell again, this time slower to rise. His legs shook, but he stood. "I could kill you," Superman warned. "You already did," Steve said. "When you killed Tony. When you killed Thor." Superman hesitated. His hands trembled. "I didn't mean." "I know," Steve said. "But it still happened. Now it's up to you to stop it." Superman looked down. For one moment, he saw not a soldier, but a man. Alone, defiant, brave, and it hurt. With one final breath, Steve stepped forward. Superman raised his hand and stopped. He couldn't do it. Steve lowered his shield arm, blood dripping, bones shaking. "You don't have to be this," he said. And for just 1 second, Superman almost believed him. But the rage inside was louder, and with a whisper of wind, he vanished, leaving Steve alone in the street, alive, but not victorious. The streets were broken, glass, stone, smoke. Captain America lay on the pavement, breathing hard. Alive, but only just. Superman had vanished into the clouds again, but the air still felt heavy. Like something was building. Like the worst hadn't happened yet. And it hadn't. Inside the Avengers compound, Bruce Banner stared at the screen. He had seen Tony fall. He had seen Thor fall. Now Steve. A slow fire lit behind his eyes. "This ends now," Bruce muttered. Natasha touched his arm. "Are you sure?" Bruce didn't answer. He closed his eyes and let go. The roar shattered windows 3 blocks away. The Hulk was back. But this wasn't the confused Hulk of old. This was the controlled version. Smart, angry, focused. He leapt into the sky, straight toward the last known location of the Kryptonian. "Banner." A voice came through his earpiece. "Natasha." "I'm here," Hulk growled. "Don't hold back." "I wasn't planning to." Superman heard him coming. He turned slowly, watching the green giant land like a meteor on the rooftop. Steel bent under Hulk's feet. "I've fought gods," Hulk said. "You don't scare me." Superman didn't speak. He just moved. The fight shook the skyline. Hulk charged first, massive fist swinging, full force. Each punch could level a tank. He hit Superman in the jaw, and Superman moved, but not far. Hulk kept going, punch after punch, pushing Superman backward through a skyscraper. Glass exploded. Walls collapsed. Superman flew out the other side and hit back. Hulk was thrown across 5 rooftops. He landed hard, growling, bleeding. He got back up and smiled. "Good," he said. "You hit like thunder." The battle continued. They crashed through buildings, into rivers, through tunnels. Every impact caused aftershocks. Fires broke out across the city. People ran. Soldiers stood back. Nothing could stop them now. This was strength versus strength. And still, Superman was faster, smarter, colder. Hulk began to slow. His hits grew wild, less sharp. Superman's were exact, precise, surgical. A punch to the ribs, a heat beam to the knee, a slam to the neck. The Hulk screamed in rage, but his body was breaking. Bones cracked, blood spilled. His green skin now bruised with purple and black. Superman grabbed him by the throat mid-roar. "Why do you fight me?" he asked. Hulk could barely breathe. "Because you're a bully." Superman's eyes glowed. "No," he said. "I was trying to save myself." Then came the blast. A final heat vision, direct to the skull. The rooftop lit up like a sun. When the light faded, the Hulk was gone. Not dead, but unconscious, defeated. His massive body lay still, smoke rising from his wounds. Superman stood above him, breathing hard. His hands were shaking, not from fear, but from what he had become. Back at the compound, the others watched in silence. "He beat the Hulk," Clint whispered. Natasha lowered her head. "We're running out of heroes." Wanda clenched her fists. Her heart burned. Her grief returned. Her rage followed. "This isn't over," she said, voice cold. And for the first time, her eyes glowed with something even Superman hadn't seen yet. The Man of Steel looked out across the city. Fires burned. Skyscrapers shook. He was alone at the top of the world. But instead of peace, all he felt was a deep, heavy silence. The kind that follows after everything is broken. And deep down, he knew it wasn't over, because someone else was coming. Someone fueled by something far more dangerous than strength. Wanda Maximoff. And she wasn't coming to fight. She was coming to end it. The Avengers were broken. Iron Man was dead. Thor had fallen. The Hulk was down. Only a few remained. No gods. No monsters. Just people. Natasha Romanoff. Clint Barton. Wanda Maximoff. And they were all that stood between Superman and the end of everything. At the ruins of the Avengers compound, Clint loaded his last few arrows. His hands were shaking. "Not much left," he muttered. Natasha nodded, checking her pistols. "Enough." They both looked at Wanda. She stood at the edge of a landing pad, silent, eyes glowing red. There was something in the air around her. Heavy, crackling. Power flowed off her like heat. But her face stayed calm. "I can feel him," she said quietly. "He's not far." "What do you want to do?" Natasha asked. Wanda looked out toward the city. Flames glowed in the distance. The sky was still dark from smoke and storm. "I want to end this," she said. "But not with revenge. With truth." Natasha stepped forward, put a hand on Wanda's shoulder. "Then we've got your back." Clint smiled faintly. "Always." They moved quietly through the empty streets of New York. No armies. No shields. No suits. Just will. Just purpose. The people were gone now, hiding in fear. The world had gone quiet. A city built for millions, reduced to whispers and rubble. They found Superman standing on top of Stark Tower, now half destroyed. He didn't turn to face them. He already knew. "I should tell you to leave," he said. "I don't want to hurt anyone else." "You don't have to want any more," Clint said, stepping forward, arrow drawn. "You took that choice from us." Natasha stood beside him, guns raised. "Stand down." Superman turned slowly. He looked different now, exhausted, hollow, as if every battle had chipped something away from him. "You think you can stop me?" he asked. "No," Natasha said. "But she might," Clint added. Wanda stepped forward. Superman's eyes narrowed. "You're different." "I've lost everything too," she said. "My family, my brother, the man I loved." Her voice trembled, but her power did not. "I know pain," she said, "but I don't kill because of it." A sudden gust of wind blew through the streets. Her energy grew stronger, lifting debris around her. Her red aura flared. Superman stepped back. Wanda raised a hand, and the air cracked. "You don't belong here," she said. Superman's heat vision lit up, but Wanda was faster. She blocked it with her power, caught it mid-air, twisted it into nothing. Her fingers danced, rewriting energy like code. Superman flew at her, but she stopped him mid-air with a single gesture. He hovered, frozen. "You're not invincible," she whispered. Then she squeezed. Superman's body jerked in place, not in pain, but in shock. Wanda's magic wrapped around his mind, searching, pulling, showing him every life he had taken, every soul he had broken. Tony, Thor, Banner, all of it. And Superman screamed. The sound shook the city. He broke free for a second and knocked Wanda back with a shockwave of raw force. Natasha caught her. Clint fired a sonic arrow. It exploded at Superman's feet, sending him crashing through the roof. Wanda stood again, bleeding, but smiling. "He's afraid now," she said. They had touched something inside him. Not victory, but doubt. The final piece had been cracked. And as Superman rose from the rubble, he didn't look like a god. He looked like a man being torn apart from the inside. Wanda stepped forward again, and this time, he didn't attack. Superman stood in the ruins of Stark Tower. Dust clung to his cape. His hands were shaking. His chest rose and fell with deep, uneven breaths. He looked around at the broken glass, the flickering city lights, the world he'd nearly destroyed. And then he looked at Wanda. She was walking toward him, slow, calm, but her eyes burned, not just with power, but with heartbreak. "You should have never come here," she said. "I didn't mean to hurt anyone," he replied. I wanted peace." Wanda stopped. "Peace doesn't come through fear." Superman said nothing. "Tony's dead. Thor's gone. Banner is broken," she continued, her voice rising. "And you think that's peace?" "I was trying to stop more pain," he whispered. "I've lost too much." "So have I," she screamed. The world responded. Red magic burst from her hands. The air shimmered. Every streetlight exploded. "You think you're the only one who's lost someone," she shouted. "Do you know what it's like to feel your brother die in your arms? To see the love of your life explode in front of you?" Superman took a step back. Wanda's feet lifted off the ground. Her aura surrounded her like a firestorm. Pieces of metal and concrete floated around her like planets around a sun. "You have no idea what pain is," she said. "You don't carry pain. You cause it." Superman tried to speak, but she didn't let him. With a wave of her hand, she blasted him backward into a building. He crashed through it like a cannonball. Before he could rise, she was on him. Red tendrils of energy wrapped around his arms and legs, pinning him to the ground. Wanda hovered over him. "You want power?" she whispered. "Feel mine." She pushed her hands forward and entered his mind. Visions, memories, regrets. Wanda saw everything. A dead Lois, a ruined Earth, a broken man trying to find meaning in destruction. Tears filled her eyes, but the rage didn't stop. "You lost someone and made the whole world pay for it." Superman gasped. "I didn't know how to stop." "You don't get to stop," she replied. "Not until you answer for every name you took, every future you burned." Superman's eyes flickered, then ended. Wanda floated down. Her face was inches from his. "I want to," she said. "I should." Red light burned brighter in her palms. Superman closed his eyes, but the final strike never came. Wanda's hands trembled, and slowly she stepped back. "You're not worth my revenge," she said. "I want justice, not more death." The light faded. Her feet touched the ground. Superman lay in silence, broken, beaten, but alive. Wanda turned away. Natasha and Clint stood nearby, watching, waiting, weapons lowered. Clint stepped forward. "Is it over?" Wanda didn't answer. Instead, she looked up at the sky, dark and heavy above the city. And for the first time since Tony died, she exhaled. Behind her, Superman didn't rise. He just stayed there, silent, small. Not a god, not a hero, just a man who made the wrong choices and couldn't take them back. And Wanda walked away, not because she forgave him, but because someone had to be strong enough to stop the cycle. The battle was over, but the silence that followed felt heavier than war. Smoke still drifted through the streets. Buildings stood like skeletons. Fires flickered in alleyways and behind windows, glowing like ghosts of what had been. The Avengers were gone. Iron Man, Thor, Hulk, even Steve, alive but broken, no longer the man who led them. Only a few remained. Clint Barton, sitting on a rooftop with his last arrow still in his hand, staring at the sunrise. Natasha Romanoff, walking through the empty Avengers compound, tracing her fingers across a wall that once held mission photos and memories. Wanda Maximoff, standing in the middle of Central Park, barefoot in the grass, eyes closed, feeling the wind and the weight of everything she'd done and everything she didn't do. The world had lost its heroes, but maybe it had gained something else. News spread fast. Reporters stood outside the ruins of Stark Tower, telling stories with tear-filled eyes. "Superman has disappeared," one anchor said. After the final battle, he was seen flying west, and then he was gone. Some people called for his arrest. Others still defended him. Most just didn't know what to believe. But the world felt different. Not because someone powerful had arrived, but because someone stronger had stopped him. Wanda wasn't on magazine covers. She didn't give speeches. She didn't ask for thanks. She simply walked away. Nick Fury watched everything from a dark room, one screen glowing in front of him. The file read, "Avengers Initiative inactive." He said nothing, just closed the file and turned off the lights. In a quiet cemetery outside the city, 3 fresh gravestones stood. Tony Stark, Thor Odinson, Bruce Banner. Their names carved in stone, but their stories carved into the world forever. Natasha placed flowers on each one. Clint stood beside her in silence. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. Steve Rogers sat in a wheelchair by the river. His shield leaned against the chair. He stared out at the water. "You did your best," someone said. It was Sam Wilson, the Falcon. He hadn't been in the fight. He came too late, but he came. "I should have been there," Sam added. Steve looked at him. "You're here now." Sam sat down beside him. The water flowed, and in that silence, a new seed was planted. Maybe not for another team, but for another chance. Wanda walked through the ruins of the city, unnoticed. No cameras, no press, just her. She passed by murals already being painted, pictures of fallen heroes, candles, handwritten notes. One read, "Thank you, Iron Man." Another, "We remember Thor." And in the corner, scribbled in chalk, "Avengers forever." Wanda smiled softly. Her eyes still held pain, but now they also held something else. Peace. High in the sky, far beyond where satellites could reach, Superman drifted alone. He looked down at the earth, not as a god, not as a hero, as a man who had made mistakes too big to fix. He closed his eyes and vanished into the stars. The world kept turning. People rebuilt. Children wore Avengers t-shirts again, not because they were real, but because they were right. The idea was alive, maybe stronger than ever. Heroes die, legends fall, but the reason they fight, the hope they leave behind, that lasts. And somewhere far from the noise, a small beacon blinked, buried under the rubble. One last Iron Man suit still powered, still waiting, because maybe one day the world would need heroes again. Far from Earth, in the silence of space, Superman floated. No cities, no people, no voices calling him a god, no screams calling him a monster, just stars and memory. He closed his eyes and remembered. He remembered a different world, a brighter one, with a woman named Lois. with hope, with laughter, with love. That world was gone, destroyed, not by aliens, not by magic, but by his own failure to save what mattered most. He tried to escape that pain. He flew across realities, searching for peace, for meaning. And then he found this world, the Avengers. So many heroes, so much strength, so much unity. He saw in them what he had lost. And it hurt, because deep inside he envied them. Their teamwork, their friendships, their jokes, their arguments, their family. He wanted to join them, but instead he broke them. Because pain left unchecked becomes rage, and rage becomes destruction. He didn't mean to kill Tony, but after that moment, it was too late to turn back. Every battle after that was fear, panic, desperation. He wasn't trying to conquer Earth. He was trying not to fall apart. And he failed. On Earth, Wanda stood on a quiet hill. She could feel him even this far away. She didn't hate him, not anymore, because she saw what he really was. Not evil, just broken, like her once, like so many others. But broken souls with power are dangerous. That was the lesson. Not all villains laugh. Not all monsters roar. Sometimes they cry. And sometimes those are the ones you should fear most. The Avengers were gone, but their idea remained. Not just about saving the world, but protecting each other, being human, being flawed, and choosing every day to do the right thing anyway. That was heroism, not perfection, but purpose. In the end, Superman became a warning that even the greatest power, without healing, can turn into ruin. But the Avengers, even in death, became something greater, a reminder that no matter how dark the world becomes, there will always be someone who stands up, someone who fights, someone who believes, someone who says, "I can do this all day." Globe showing Europe, Africa fade to black. Title card appears. In memory of fallen heroes and the strength of those who rise after.